Evening, colleagues. Welcome. We just took a break. I wanted to make sure that everybody in the lobby has been accepted. I hope we no longer have anyone waiting in the lobby. Welcome to everybody. Welcome to everybody. Those who don't know me, Debo is my name. Others they call me Dr. T. We call this session just for one main reason. Uh, the reason is to give opportunity to those people who have been selected just to share their experiences about their selection with those who might be going for their selection in the coming weeks. We understand that there are people who are still going for selection in the few weeks to come. I think Rhodes, there are selection for counseling that are coming. There are other people from University of the Free State, Cape Town, UP, I think is still coming. And I thought it better because I was getting a lot of inquiries on LinkedIn where people wanted support. So, like I told you in the last meeting, it's very difficult to assist people individually. It's better we have a meeting like this one where people can share about how they experience the selection. But also because I've shared a lot in the past on the YouTube, I felt it's better that I get people who can give different perspective. I preferably, most of the time, I prefer people who have just been selected because they're still fresh in their mind. They remember what happened. That is why even the people that we interview, you'll notice that most of the time I interview people who have just completed their masters and just got selected that same year, or people who are just doing the internship. Because sometimes, with time, you forget the process, but you also forget the emotion at that particular time. Hence, I selected people who have just got selected. So the people that you saw on the poster, I had 3 people on the poster, and I'm really, really thankful to them for agreeing to be part of this session. And they have also benefited from this, from our YouTube channel. If you have not seen the YouTube channel, I encourage you that you check it out. I will share with you so that you can see it. But they were kind enough to contact me to say we're part of the sessions, we're part of the channel, and we want to help others as well. And I really appreciated that. And I said I will make time so that you can share and tell them how you handle the whole process. It's better to hear from people who just came from the interview a week or 2 ago. So on the poster that you have seen, you saw 3 people. Promise Chuketana, she has been accepted at Rhodes. You also saw Iman. Iman has been accepted at SMU, Sifakumakatu Health Science University, formerly called Medunsa. You also saw Kiabet Nkopodi. Kiabet is not here due to emergency. There's a funeral in her family. So I have excused her so that she can attend to the family matters. So she wanted to join, although she was not going to be able to participate. So I told her, you know what, family is more important than this. So we can still see her later. But luckily, she was part of the previous discussion. But I got Buhle, who joined us. Buhle has been, she was not on the poster, but she's also accepted at Rhodes. So they are here simply just to share their experiences. And the way I've decided that we are going to follow the process to follow, we are going to take more a panel approach where I will be posing questions to them. They will share with us. And I'm going to request that you jot down your questions that you have. Toward the end, when they are done, I'm going to open the floor so that you can be able to ask questions. So have your questions ready. You can put them on the chat in the meantime. And then I'm going to ask Promise, Ima, or Buhle, try to put your question on the, try to type anything on the chat. I just want to make sure that the chat is working. Last time I asked people to put questions on the chat, only to find out it's not working. If it's not working, just send me a WhatsApp. And I'm talking to our presenters in particular. They're the one who have my WhatsApp. Send me a WhatsApp, and then I can just see if I can change the setup while you are talking. And I'm going to ask you to also switch on your video. I hope it's active and you are able to do that, so that when we speak, they can see that you are not a robot, you are real human beings. Sometimes people think those who get selected, they are not, you know, people who are from their owners. They think they come from another planet. So I want them to see you that you are a real human being. You are not Chat GPT or a robot from somewhere. They must see you, hear you, and see that it is possible. So when I ask you to just share, maybe briefly introduce yourself, they know where you come from. Sometimes they think maybe people who get selected, they come from a particular place that is peculiar. They need to know that you come from where some of them they come from. You come from a normal background. Your parents might not even be psychologists. Some people think maybe your parents are psychologists, hence you are selected. So I want you to be as open as far as you can to help the people who are here to be able to also relax, to know that the people who get selected are not peculiar people, they are not abnormal people, they are not, out of this world. And, share openly. Sometimes when you don't share about some of the issues that you went through, the anxiety that you dealt with, people might think maybe you are a different one, hence you are selected. So we want to create that normality about the selection, because I think most of the time people don't get selected because they are not good psychologists. They don't have potential to become psychologists. They are not selected. Majority of the time, anxiety is what kicks in, but also our thinking patterns, they affect us. So let me officially welcome all of you. Maybe let's start with Promise. Are you able to switch on your camera? Just a quick intro so that they can see who Promise is. Wow.
Yes.
Perfect. Intro. Thank you so much.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Oh, sorry about that. Audible properly now. Sorry?
I can see you and I can hear you. So I hope everybody does.
Okay. So my name is Promise. Well, I prefer Amukelani, but government name is Promise Amukelani Tuketani. And and I am from Joburg. I completed my undergrad at Forte and honors at UKZN. So I've been accepted for clinical at Rhodes. And
Wow.
yeah.
No. Cut it there. At least we know you've been accepted the roles for clinical. And I'm going to call you later others to introduce themselves. Somebody was asking me if our discussions are relevant for clinical or counseling or whatever. Just to put it at ease, our discussion will be relevant for any field as long as it's a master's in psychology or honors in psychology. It's about selection. I tell people it doesn't matter whether it's counseling or whatever, the approach is the same. So, Promise has been accepted in clinical. It's Iman there. Iman, are you there? Are you able to switch on your camera? Just a quick greeting so that we can know you and meet you.
Okay. Hi everyone. First of all, thank you, Dr. T, for having us here today. Can you hear me clearly?
Thank to you. I can hear you very well. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, so I'm Iman. I did my undergrad at City College, and I did my honors at STACAP, both in Sandton, and I've been accepted for clinical psych at SMU.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Iman. Thank you for being here. You have been accepted in clinical. So today I think we've got clinical people. Bushle, are you able to switch on your camera so that we can also meet you? Just quick greetings.
Okay, let me just. Hi, evening, everyone. So I'm Bushe. Did my undergrad at NMU, Nelson Mandela University, and I did my honors there as well. For 2024, I'm accepted at Rhodes for clinical.
Thank you so much, Bushle. Thank you so much. Thank you. I really appreciate. Bushle also has been accepted in clinical. So Bushle and Amu, they are in the same, they'll be in the same class, 2024. So colleagues, let me just welcome you again. And I really, really appreciate your time and sacrifice and your kindness to be part of this. I was telling people in the previous session that most of the time we always say we want to be psychologists because we want to help people. But for some reason, when we become psychologists, we forget why we wanted to become psychologists. And I think what you guys have done have actually showed and demonstrated why we want to become psychologists. I don't see why somebody should be selected and not share what helped them to be selected. Remember, if you get selected and you share with us, we're not going to take your space. We are still going to keep yours while you help us to get our space somewhere. So I really appreciate Iman, Amo, and Booth and Kia in her absence, because I know she would have liked to be here, but obviously things did not work according to her favor. So thank you so much, colleagues. I really appreciate that. But as a way to open now, and don't feel pressured to switch on your camera. It is nice if you do, but don't feel pressure to switch it on. Sometimes bandwidth can be affected, and then you find your visuals are not that clear. But if you can switch it on, it will be kind enough. It will be kind so that at least we can see you. Sometimes it's nice to see the people when they talk, but no pressure. You know, I just have to switch it on so that this is not like we're not on a radio. So somebody must be visible here. So anybody who talks, you can switch on your camera. So feel comfortable so that it's more interactive. We can see you when you talk. Maybe as a way to just open, I'm going to just pose a question, and maybe we can start with you, Iman. Maybe if we can just quickly just give us a brief reflection. I just want to understand, where were you when you got that letter that you are selected, or an email or a call? I don't know what you got, you know, to hear that you were selected, and what went into your mind? What was the emotions? I just want to understand and capture the feeling that you experienced at that point. Can you just share a bit about that?
Okay, so I think SMU was really amazing in terms of, like, telling us that we have been accepted. What they did was, just before they sent the acceptance letters, they did like a short debriefing session for everyone. So firstly, like,
Wow.
debriefed, and like, yeah, two of the panel members were part of the meeting, and they, like, just made everyone feel calm. And then afterwards, we got our letters via email. And I think to this day, I'm still trying to get used to the feeling, because it's like, since like we start with our undergrad and during our honors as well, we just feel like we always stress about masters. And then when you get accepted, it's like, now how do you get used to this feeling of not like being stressed about getting into masters? So I'm like still trying to process all the feelings. Yeah, it's kind of like a moment, like you just can't believe it. I was like, I need to call Miss Brenda, the receptionist, and just make sure that she didn't send the letter to me in error. Did I really get accepted?
I can imagine. I can imagine. Yeah, I don't know. Look, it happens. It's a shock. And I remember when I spoke to Kia last week, she told me, you know what, she's still shocked. She still can't believe it. And because you want it so much, the minute you get it, you still can't believe that you got it. You feel maybe there must be a mistake. But congrats. I'm happy to hear that. And I'm happy for you as well. Congrats and all the best. I think we are planning that, I think early Jan around there, we're going to make a pre-master session just to prepare the mentality, because I tell people they need to get to M1, your life is done. Basically, you don't have life for the next 2 years. It's better when you know that, so that you don't get there and feel like, baby, you took a wrong course, or it's by mistake, or people are enjoying somewhere. You need to know everywhere we have no life when we get to masters. So you want it so much, then you get it, you're like, what did I get myself into? But congrats, man, and I'm happy to hear that. Maybe Buse, if I can shift to you, Buse, just to share a bit your own reflections.
I honestly agree with Iman. It's not easy getting used to the feeling. Like, you constantly think, is it true? Like, am I dreaming? So I remember it was a Friday. I knew I was going to get a call, so I kept on looking at my phone, am I receiving a call, am I receiving a call? And then so when the call came through, it was like I already knew what's going on. I remember I answered the call. The coordinator greeted me, yes, but my mind was no longer on the conversation because I already kind of knew what was happening. So after the call, I cried. I cried because I was like, yo, I cannot believe this is happening. So from then until now, I think I'm just sort of trying to get used to the fact that I'm here. Like, this is where I've been wanting to be since my first year, 2019. So yeah.
I hear you. I hear you. Look, I'm sure everybody's here. They wish they can get to that point where they have that feeling, and that's why we've gathered here. But congratulations to you as well. And I can just imagine, colleagues, I know getting into masters is one of the most hectic things that you go through, particularly the interview. And what you are going through is not uncommon. I think everybody gets selected, they go through that. You feel like you are in a dream that was still waiting for somebody to wake you up. But it is real, and I want you to really enjoy this feeling. Let's move to Amo. Amo, your reflections. We just want to know so that we prepare ourselves when we get there as well, at least for the people who are here, so that they can know how they're going to feel a few weeks from now.
Yeah. I think I'm hearing exactly how I was feeling as well. A lot of disbelief, not being sure if they really called the right person. Even when they called, they did say hi, promise, but there's still that disbelief that promise me or maybe another one. And the other thing is that later in the week, like as time went by, I realized that it was actually more fulfilling. The journey itself of getting into masters wasn't as great as the actual acceptance letter. It was great, yes, but the journey of seeing myself fighting for a spot and growing within the process, I think that meant more to me than the actual letter. But I'm still in a lot of disbelief.
Yeah. No, thank you. I hope I didn't cut you. Were you done?
Yes. Yes, I was.
Okay. Okay, perfect. Sorry, I'm between my phone and my computer due to connectivity. So thank you so much, and I'm happy, colleagues, that you are here and willing to share that. And I totally understand. I mean, I've gone through the same, but this is not about me. I want to get into the gist, which is why we are here. And that is the part about the experience now of the selection. I want you to just share a bit, just take us through the whole selection process. Let me just reduce here, there's a background sound. Just if you can take us through the selection process. I'm always specific because the people who are here that are going through their selection in few weeks from now, and they want to at least prepare their mind about what they can expect. And I wish you can be as elaborate as possible so that we can be able to have more understanding. And they're going to ask questions later. But if you can just take us through the process. Firstly, we want to know what university did you go to? And what was the process? You got an invite. What happened when you arrived there? Was it 4-day selection process? You arrived in the room. Were you all sitting together? And what happened? Did they call a group first? What did they ask you? I just want you to take us step by step about the process that you had to follow. I'm going to start and go back to Iman as well. Just if you can take us through that, at least so that we can understand how the selection was conducted. We hope that we can at least draw some lessons from what happened at UP, because I believe that the approach is going to be similar in any place, but we can draw some principle or draw some lessons from there that we can take to where wherever we are going. If you can just take us through that, I'll really appreciate. Over to you.
Okay. Okay, so at SMU, what did we have in the first round? Let me just quickly. Okay, so the first round took place over 2 days, and they invited about 100 interviewees actually. So the first round was like a group interview where the entire panel was in the room, and they divided us in like groups of 10 to 12, if I remember correctly. And then we just had to like first they gave us a topic and we had to like discuss it in the group, and then after the discussion they told us to reflect on the discussion. So that was the first round with all of the panel members. And then we were invited for the second round. That was second round was, what was it? Oh, so we had role plays in the first part of the round, and then in the second part we had a written task. So they gave us like an article that was like really long, and then we had to like read it and like write an abstract. We had to write. They wanted us to write a conclusion for that article and then also write an introduction. Oh, abstract. I don't remember properly, but it was like we had to like read the entire article and write a conclusion for it, and write like a. I think it was an abstract. I don't remember clearly. So that was the second round, second and third.
I will think perhaps it was an abstract, because if it was an article, it would have came with the conclusion. So probably it was an abstract.
No, we had to do both. So it was like I think a kind of like a case study article kind of thing. So it had a conclusion, but it wasn't very clear. So they wanted us to like write a conclusion.
How long was it? Was it like a full page? Was it just
the first part? Sorry, Dr. T, I couldn't hear you. Can you please repeat your question?
Was it a full page or a full paragraph? Just one paragraph.
It was very yeah. So we there were 2 questions, and each of them were like 200 words long. But like they only gave us 1 hour, and the article was really long. So most of us struggled with that, because now we couldn't even read the entire article properly in 1 hour. So we just kind of like read it quickly, then looked at the main points and just tried to like finish it as quickly as we could. But the limit for each question was 200 words.
Okay, awesome. And then after that.
Okay, and then we had the 4th round. That was then we had individual interviews. By the 4th round, that we came down to 25 interviewees. Yeah. And then they did like for this individual interview, we only had like half of the panel members. So they divided the panel into 2 groups, and then everyone had individual interviews with 1 group only. And then on Friday, we had the 5th round, the final round, and that was with the entire panel. And then the head of the department was there. Yeah, I think it was the head. And then he just had like a few questions. Yeah. And then, yeah, it was very brief. I think it was about 10 minutes long. The individual interviews were long, like 20 minutes during the 4th round. And then the final interview was like 10 minutes long. And it was very brief, and yeah.
Okay. Okay. The feedback. I hope you can hear me. Yeah. So, and I'm asking on behalf of the people who are listening now and watching. So, or maybe I'll come back to that. I wanted to ask about specific question that they ask you, but maybe before I do that, let me give Buhle. Buhle, can you just give us a bit of a overview of the process that you followed? I'm not going to ask Amu to give as well, because you come from the same interview, but I'm just going to ask you to share or to add. Amu, you will add, let Butle give us just an overview of what happened, then and Amu will add into that, whatever that she missed out. Butle, over to you.
Okay, so Rhodes had invited 24 applicants. We arrived that Monday morning. That was when the selection week began. Each person had 2 individual interviews with a psychology department member or a psychologist in private practice, all from the hospital. And then that was Monday, Tuesday, spread out Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And then we had a role play as well. So after Wednesday afternoon, we then got emails on who had moved on to stage 3 of the process. So it was now 12 applicants moving through. And then Thursday, Friday, it was now panel interviews. Then from the panel interviews, the final 6 were then selected.
Okay, perfect. Anything to add on your side, Amu, on what Bush has shared?
I think maybe going into specifics about,
Yes.
I don't know if that's okay for me to.
Please, by all means, that's why we're here.
Okay, so with me, I had the first individual interview was with the clinical psychologist at the hospital where the internships take place. And he mostly focused on my autobiography. So there were certain parts that he highlighted for my autobiography. He specifically asked why I think I wasn't accepted for the past 2 years, because this was my 3rd year applying. So he was asking, what do I think I did different this year for me to be invited? And
wow. I'm interested in your answer on that, because I think that people here who have been rejected before, or who will be watching, who were rejected before, and who are now going for their 2nd time. So I will be interested in your answer. So continue, but I want to hear how you answer that one.
No problem. And then so immediately after they sent the invitations, they asked us to submit a research proposal. So he also focused a lot on my research proposal, which was pinpointed on psychopathology and psychopharmacology. So he asked me why I chose that specific question. And then the most prevalent question was asking why clinical psychology. And he made reference to the type of things that I wrote in my autobiography and my research topic. So he'd ask me why clinical psychology and not pharmacology, since I'm interested in psychotropic medication. So he basically asked to see if I understand the scope of practice of clinical psychology.
Wow.
And yeah.
Continue.
Okay. So the next activity, which was literally an hour after my individual interview, was role play. So with the first 10 minutes, I had to counsel the client who was in a crisis, and they had to stop me and give me feedback. So I had to implement whatever feedback that they had given me. That was mostly what happened.
And was the client like one of the staff member, or was it just somebody they got from the students?
Oh, yes, I forgot to mention. So the role play was actually monitored by a clinical psychologist and 2 M1s, and the client was an M1 as well. Current M1 student.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
Okay. Continue.
And then
do you want to continue?
Yes. So the next interview that I had, the next activity was another individual interview. It was with a departmental staff member or senior lecturer, and it was very similar. He also asked me a lot about my autobiography and also focused on why clinical psychology. So his approach was different. He mentioned that because I care about underprivileged communities and I volunteered for an NPO, why am I going for clinical psychology and not social work? So they were really scrutinizing why you chose this specific category as opposed to others.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Bushe, any on your background, your side, what was the focus of the questions? When you finish,
I
I'm going to
think-
go back to, sorry, when you finish, I'm going to go back to, I'm going to come back to you about that question of how you answered it, but let Buhle come in now.
Okay.
It was a bit of the same. Like the first interview with the staff member focused a lot on my autobiography. I think it was a sense of each question that I was asked was based on an answer that I had given. The one with a psychologist from the hospital focused a bit on everything. The research I had submitted, why clinical. Yeah, so I think it was roughly the same thing, and I was asked which modality am I more aligned to. Yeah, that was it.
Sorry. I'm busy using two gadgets, so I'm busy transitioning between the two. So, Buhle, I wanted to ask you, did they ever ask you what is the modality of Rhodes, or they just ask you which modality are you inclined to? Because I'm asking this because most of the time people ask me what is the modality of an institute. Did they ever ask you that? And how did you answer that particular question?
They asked me what modality aligns with me, and
Okay.
then the modalities that I named, the psychologist told me that they are at Rhodes. So that was how the question was, yes.
Okay. Was it the same on your side, Promise?
No, actually, the technical questions I received were more DSM related.
Is it? Okay. Maybe let me ask you this. When you say they ask you your biography, did they have the form in front of them, or the question that came gave an indication that these are the things that you wrote about? How did you know they were from your biography?
Oh, so they had everything printed out, the autobiography, the referee forms, the research proposal. Your whole application basically was printed out.
Wow. That's great. Okay. I hope people are listening. So if you submitted something there, make sure that you get your form. I hope you have a copy or you remember what you sent so that you have not lied. In case they ask you about what you wrote, you can be able to defend it. Let me come back to you. I promise that question that you asked, they said you have went back for the second time. Where did you go before, if I might ask? Where did you get rejected before? Was it for clinical as well? And where was the universities?
So there's a question in the application form for Rhodes in which they ask you about your previous applications and how you responded to the rejections. So in that question, I mentioned everywhere else where I applied, which was for the past 2 years.
Okay, yeah. So which institute were they that you never got into previously?
So my first attempt, I applied at 8 universities. I'm even ashamed that I don't remember all of them. And
no problem. It's fine. You don't have to mention that 8 is a lot. So
yes.
okay. So how did you answer that question? And I've got two questions. How did you answer the question? And what do you think you did differently this time compared to the previous time?
Okay, so my answer was that I have more work experience and I'm more cognizant of psychology on a practical viewpoint. So I don't just know it from the textbook, but so I work for a psychologist, both an educational and a counseling psychologist, and I'm a volunteer school counselor as well. So I mentioned that all of those experiences have given me insight into psychology.
Awesome.
So, yes. So I also spoke about how my work experience has improved my interpersonal skills, which I believe are very important going into psychology and M1 as a whole. So I believe that's what I did. That was my honest answer. I believe that's what I did differently. And that continuously, with every year, I was improving and I was looking for better opportunities to be a better candidate.
Awesome. No, honestly, I actually also do encourage people that if you want to volunteer or do any part-time work, it's better when you work with a psychologist, because I think that practical exposure is going to give you more better advantage than just working anywhere particularly when it's not psychologically related. I think that experience of being with a psychologist on a daily basis will really have an impact. Let me go to Iman. Iman, on your side, what were the focus of their question? What did they ask and how did you approach it?
Okay, so I'm not sure if at SMU the panel members had our application with them, so like the written application. Because when I went in, the first thing they told me to do was introduce myself and just tell them about my experience in the field and everything. They also they did ask why I wanted to do clinical psychology and not counseling. There was an ethics related question, so they wanted me to think about a time where I was faced with an ethical dilemma and how did I deal with that. They also asked me why I chose SMU. And then there were a few practical questions like if I was in a certain situation, how would I deal with that? So that did catch me a bit off guard. I wasn't expecting that question, but it kind of worked out. Yeah.
When you say if you're in a certain situation, what situation did they mention in particular?
Okay, so the question that I was asked was if I have a patient or a client who's experiencing psychotic symptoms, would I scream at them? Because the panel was she started the question in a way that would confuse me. So she said that you do seem to be a bit soft. So if you have a patient with psychotic symptoms, would you scream at them?
Okay.
And I don't think any other student has ever come across this question before because I never heard of this. Are we allowed to scream at our patients? So I just went with what I felt was okay, and I said that no, I wouldn't scream at them, and I got
it was
accepted.
a tricky question. That one was tricky. They wanted to put you on the spot to check if you know the ethical ways to deal with the patient. So if you had screamed, I think that would have been the worst answer to give. No, you did well. And I always say to the people, even when you are very much aware of your attributes, your typical behavior, when you get into an interview and they ask you a question that you feel is tricky, always give them what you think is right for a psychologist to do. Even though you know yourself you could have shouted, but give them what a psychologist should do at that particular time. Always keep that in mind. And I think you gave the best answer there. That one I can tell you was a tricky one. And they did it intentionally. It was very subtle, but it was a trap,
Yeah, it was.
It was a trap, I can tell you.
Yeah, and they kept on asking me that over and over again. Would you still scream? Or if you were there right now, would you scream? And then I said no, and I got lucky there.
Yeah, no, it was a trap. That one I can tell you. But I think what I'm learning, or from what you guys are sharing, the question about why did you choose clinical, or why did you choose the field that you are going to be going for the interview for, it seems to be common. And it's not only you, almost everybody who goes there. That is why I tell people, if you apply for educational, counseling, clinical, if you are doing counseling or educational, because they majority know about clinical, they don't know about educational, they might ask you as well the same question. Why did you choose this particular field? So make sure that you know why you chose the category that you chose. And make sure you know also at least the difference. Typically, I've done a video where I share about the difference between the different fields. So make sure that at least you've got the basic understanding of how do they differ. Because they might ask you, why didn't you go for clinical? Why didn't you go for counseling? If you're in clinical, why did you choose clinical? So make sure that you know that distinction, because they might ask you this question. Chances are very high, but it will be very embarrassing that you are there. You want to be educational, you want to be a counseling, but you don't know why in comparison to others. Because they might ask you a question, why not go for counseling? What they're basically asking you, what do you think is the difference between counseling and the one that you are there for? So always be aware of that. So Iban, you spoke about the question that was a bit tricky. I want to hear from Bushe and Amu. Was the question that you found to be tricky during that day? Maybe let's start with Bushe. Any question that when you think about it was like, that one I nearly tripped? but I think I managed to contain myself and answer well. Was there a question like that? Butle?
In my individual interviews, I don't think so. No, I think that when I was asked about my relationship status, that caught me off guard.
Okay.
And then in my panel interviews, I was asked how would I handle a situation where the client believes in African healing practices and they want to consult with a traditional healer. So I think that question.
How did you answer it? Now I'm interested in how you answered because you are selected. Clearly, you said something right.
I think I answered it based on because my current master's research is on that. So I mentioned that I'd suggest an integration of some sort between the two. So that was how I approached the question.
Yeah, look, what you are raising is very important. And colleagues, I just want you to be prepared for that one. I think one of the key things about South African psychology is that there's a move or a shift towards the issue of I hope I'm not disconnected again. Okay, sorry about that. I got kicked out and I disconnected on my phone thinking now I'm sorted. So let me go back to my phone. Yeah, I was saying this is the most important. Sorry, I hope it's better now. I was saying the most important question that you need to prepare for, because we have been going through the process of decolonization, or what we call, you want to change the curriculum to make sure that it reflects the African context. And this is one of the biggest issues, because when you open the book, any psychology book, you realize that it's very European in terms of the content, also in terms of the pictures, everything about the book. So there's this move towards the colonization of the curriculum, but also of the psychology practice, because mainly it has been coming from the European system. So that question becomes very common in almost every interview, even in the context where they are not using the African epistemology. They still ask this particular question. So I just want you to be aware of that, but also, have your views clear about how you will work in any context where the practice of the profession sort of have an intersection or they contradict any cultural practices within whatever field that they might be asking about. And this is the question that they ask Bushi. So you need to be aware of that. But how you are going to deal with it. One of the typical questions they will ask you is that a client comes to you, and I also had a client like that actually in my practice, where they want to consult a Sangoma because they feel like maybe I'm not being effective. How will you deal with it? They might put that particular question. You need to always incline towards what is scientific without downgrading the culture of a particular individual. So show them what has been working within the scientific arena, that you understand the science of a particular disorder. Some things are established, other things are not yet established, although they are a practice of a particular culture. So you need the balance of the two. So just be aware of that. It's something that I foresee that some of you might come across it, particularly in the Black institutes, where this thing about decolonization is big, but also African epistemology is a big thing. So just be aware and prepare yourself about that. Amu, on your side, any tricky question that you came across, and how did you handle it?
Very similar question, and I agree with what you're saying as well, because they asked me, what would I do if a client a patient was admitted and they were very psychotic and they were insisting on leaving because the family believes that they need to see a traditional healer. And I answered by saying that I wouldn't disregard their belief, but I would also psychoeducate them about whatever disorder the patient is presenting. And then they further asked, how would I explain schizophrenia to a Xhosa family?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Before we continue, I like the fact that you mentioned the issue of psychoeducation. Colleagues, I think you need to note that. I always tell people the word psychoeducation is actually a concept or one of the pointers on the scope of profession. And I'm using the word scope of profession deliberately so, because we no longer have the scope of practice, but the scope of the profession. It's one of the key things on the scope of the profession. We psychoeducate. So make sure that when you speak, you use the concepts that are in psychology documents. And the fact that you use that, I think it's one of the important things. Because when we are there, remember, we might be 30 in the interview. To be honest with you, almost everybody who goes to the third stage of the interview or the second stage, those people, they've got a high potential to become psychologists. And the more you get to the third stage, the more difficult it is for the panel. I mean, I've been part of the panel. It's the most difficult time because all of you can be psychologists, but then what distinguishes you is now even the approach that you have, the language, the knowledge of psychology. It makes it easier for them to select you, because we don't also want to create problem for us. We don't want to create a burden. People who are ready-made, because already by degree to honors, you should have been prepared. We just need to brush you, equip you with the skill, and release you to the community. So the minute you present yourself as a knowledgeable person in the field, you make it easy. And I think that's why also, I think was it Amo Bushe who was sharing that they worked with the psychologists, they had the knowledge about it. It makes it easy for us, to be honest with you. So use the lingo, try to get the language, use the language of somebody who's been groomed in the psychology background. I just wanted to put that there just for you to note it. Yes, please continue, Amo.
The other difficult question that I kind of stumbled with was, I panicked when they started asking me about personality disorders, and I had completely forgotten. But I was honest and said that, my knowledge is a bit shaky, but I'm willing to learn during my M1. So
Awesome.
yeah.
Awesome. Look, and this is very important. I shared it in the previous session that we had to say, to be fair with you, even us as the panel, I don't expect you to know like me as a psychologist, but I don't also expect you to be lying to me, pretending you know what I know you don't know. And I tell people most of the time, the person asking you, probably they know the answer or they know the answer very well. Two things. They probably know the answer or they know it very well. In other words, if you lie, I will know that you are lying. If you pretend you know you don't know, I will know that you don't know at all. And you are just, taking a chance. And I tell people, always take a safer approach. Where you don't know, just say, you know what, clearly I'm not well grounded in that particular knowledge and I'm willing to learn it should I be selected. At least this is what I know. And I tell people, particularly when they ask you about a theory, Busha was sharing about when they ask you which theory do you embrace. You can share the one you embrace, but if they ask you which theory do you think we prefer, I think it's a very difficult question. Again, upon you could share what you know to say, you know what, I've searched your website. This is the theory that I think the institute is inclined towards or is practicing or they embrace. And I'm not quite sure if it's the right one because I don't think I'm exposed to your practice. However, this is my understanding of it. Or I am not familiar with that theory that well. The one that I incline towards is this particular one, and you share about that. But I'm willing to learn yours should I be selected. Be strategic on how you answer. It's a simple way to say I don't know, but you answer it strategically so. So I like what Bush is sharing. So what Amu is sharing. So Amu, please continue. I'm happy with what I'm hearing. And I want these people to get the context and prepare themselves thoroughly. Please continue, Amu.
I think those were the only difficult questions that I struggled with a little.
Okay. Anybody want to add anything, Iman, Bushe, on what we're sharing with Bushe now? With Amu now? anything you want to add? Or are you covered? Nothing to add. Okay, perfect. Now, let me move now to, I just want to ask at least maybe 2 last questions, and then I can open it to the panel. Just let me know, colleagues, if you are able to see the chat option. I want to see if you can be able to put your questions on the chat. Make sure that I've put a question there on the chat just to ask you if you can comment. I see that the chat is working. Otherwise, we'll just open the mic only. But I would have loved for those who don't want to talk can also put the question on the chat. But maybe another question, and anybody can jump in between Iman, Bush, and Promise. I want to know, and it happened to me, and I think it might have happened to you as well. At what point during the selection process did you have that, I think I might make it, or I think I've made it here? Or was there that moment that was a surety or confidence builder where you say, no, here if I don't get in, something is not right with the panel? Was there any moment like that?
I don't want to lie. I was confident even before I applied. I don't want to lie to anyone. I was very confident. I think the thing that made me very confident was that my psychologist told me to continue visualizing. She told me that I need to see myself as a clinical psychologist. And I remember even Dr. T in one of his videos, he was like, when you get there, you just need to convince them that there's no one else that is better for the job than you. So I went there very confident, and I think maybe it was because of my faith as well that played a huge part. And just remembering that anxiety is going to be there, but not the anxiety that consumes you, but the anxiety that propels you. So I think spending a lot of time in therapy for me really helped me going in there. I was very confident. I just knew. And I was confident specifically about Rhodes. So even when I got there, I told people, some people thought I was being a bit cocky, but I told them that I'm not there for selections. I'm there to fetch my acceptance letter. So I think it's really, really important to visualize before you even go there. So yeah.
You are right. You are right. Thank you for that. And I like that. The anxiety will be there. It's not there to paralyze you, but just to propel you in the right direction. And I think the confidence is the key, people. If I were to look back, even me, confidence is the key. It's one of the key things. I tell people, don't go there apologetic. Know that by the fact that you've been invited, you've got the potential to become a psychologist. You need to go there and just confirm to them what they already suspect. You are going there to confirm it. Confidence, I think, for me, the deal breaker. Anything on your side? Others? Man? Bushle?
Yes. So for me, I was like really confident this year because I knew that I worked hard. I improved my paper application, and I also like gained a lot of experience in the past year. So I had a feeling that I will get in at one of the 11 universities I applied to. And then after every round, when I would see my performance, I was like, okay, so I did well today. I think I'll make it to the next round. And I had the feeling that I will get in, but I just wouldn't express it because I didn't want to jinx it. So I was like, in my heart, I knew that I did well and I will probably get accepted. But I would tell everyone, no, I don't think I did well. I might not get in. But I think this year I was a lot more confident. Yeah.
Why do you say this? Did you go somewhere before and get rejected?
So I did apply last year, but while I was still doing my honors. And at that time, I didn't have any experience. I just wrote nonsense in my autobiography. And yeah, but this year I improved everything. So I was quite confident.
Okay, so you're also coming for the second time? Wow.
Yes.
Okay, okay. But maybe just to put a caveat there, it doesn't mean anybody here who's going for the first time won't be selected. Please don't presume that. So, Bush, are you also going for the second time or first time?
It was my second time.
Second time. Oh no,
yes.
I don't want these people here to be scared and say you must only get. Okay, Kawi is not here. Kamu is not here just to ease the anxiety. Kamu is not here. Kamu went for the first time. Kamu went for the second time actually. Oh no, oh no, oh no. Okay, but anyway, I went for the first time, people. At least that must be your motivation. I went for the first time. If that will make you feel better. But I know many people who went for the first time and got selected. So it is not about the first or the second time. Maybe I'm going to put this question because all of you are going for the second time. I'm going to ask you, I wasn't planning to, but now because you raised it, I want to know, what do you think in the first time hindered you from being selected? Because, and I tell people that, you know what, I think any psychologist or any student who reflect well about themselves and develop from an experience, they will they'll do an introspection after not being selected. They will reflect about it and work on the areas that they need to develop. If you were to look back, and I know, promise you touched on it, but if you can just come back again, just one brief answer, where do you think was the gap from your previous time and now, and what do you think changed? And I want anybody here who's going for the first time to be there as if they are going even for the second or third time. Anything that you can share. I want to check. Maybe let's start with Iman. We go to Bushe, and then we end with Amu. What is it about the first time that you think this is why you were not selected, and what did you do differently this time? Iman?
Okay, so I think for me the two main areas that I worked on were my paper application. I did work a lot on my autobiography because last year I didn't really ask anyone for guidance. So like I was on my own. I was like, okay, it's just an autobiography. I will write my life story and I'll be done. So that is something I worked on a lot this year. I did like the extra online sessions. I worked with my counselor and I reflected a lot on my autobiography. So that improved a lot and I think that helped. And the second thing was gaining experience in the field of counseling. So the more you work with people, so I worked with children, adults, and elderly. So now this year I had experience working with all age groups, but last year I didn't have this experience. So I think counseling experience also helped a lot.
Thank you for that. Bushe?
I think from my side, like the most important thing that changed from last year, this year, is that I went in there with a lot more confidence in myself. And then in terms of my autobiography, I did add a few things. I was a bit more reflective. I expressed myself a bit more. And in the interviews, I think I thought first before I answered the questions. I tried to, I'm normally someone who gives very short answers. So I tried to be a bit more expressive. So I think also therapy played a role in making me to be a bit more aware of myself as well. So yeah, those are the things that I did differently this year from last year.
Awesome. And Amu?
I think the other thing I did differently for autobiography was that I was also more reflective and I didn't trauma dump as much. Like it's okay to put in some things that have changed you and has led to your growth as a potential psychologist, but not necessarily writing all your traumas, because that is kind of a red flag.
They scare us.
Yeah, yo. Yeah, I think I held back on the trauma and just spoke about the ones that led to my growth.
Awesome. I tell people that, even when you become a psychologist, it's very interesting that although you love to work with people, if you've done a lot of therapy, the time you finish or you log your office, you don't want to be a therapist to anybody else. It's very exhausting. But how that actually apply now to the selection is that the minute somebody applies and you could sense that there's a lot of trauma, preferably from an institute perspective or departmental perspective, we prefer that you deal with your own trauma before you come to us, because that will have a negative effect on the class and other students. So it is good that you tone it down and you try to show a bit of being composed, because as a psychologist, you need to deal with yourself first before you can be able to help others. So if you feel like you are not being helped, you are the one who need help, we prefer to give you a break. Sometimes when you go for selection and they see it, they're able to be honest with you to say, you know what, we feel like you have a lot to deal with, so deal with it and then come back. So be careful, people, of how much you reveal, particularly of what might be traumatic, negative. Just be cautious. We have our own views, we have our own perception that might be wrong at times, but they might affect you because for you it's a lifetime. As we make an error, it doesn't affect you, you are not selected. So just be careful of that. So in closing, people, I want to make sure that I open the floor for people to ask questions. I think you've dealt with the issue. I wanted to ask you about anxiety, but I think you've touched on that question. But maybe the last words on your side. I'm going to start with Bushle, then I go to Amo, then we close with Iman. Any last words of encouragement, advice to anybody going to selection? What are the things? Maybe if you can just give me 3 things or 2 or 1 that you think are key when they go for selection. What are the things that they need to prepare? What are the things they need to be aware of? What are the things that you feel like they're very important if they go for selection? Starting with Bushle, and then we go to Abu, then Iman.
Okay, one thing from the top of my head is that know exactly the things that you wrote when you submitted your application. Secondly, I would say think before you answer. Like sometimes I feel like we rush into answering questions without thinking about the follow-up questions. So take your time before you answer the question that you're asked, because a follow-up question, you may not have the answer to that question. And then lastly, I'd say go there with confidence. I think that helped me a lot this year because I went in there saying to myself, you've got this, you are in the class already. So yeah, go in there with confidence, believe in yourself.
Okay. Amo?
I think the one thing that I noticed with myself and the other people around me is that when we had the meet and greet, or when we found out about other people, there was that slight intimidation when you hear that others have higher qualifications or they have more experience, but that shouldn't allow you to disqualify yourself because you never know what the institution is looking for. So you might be communicating with other people and they might be in a different place than you, but don't let that affect your confidence. And then the other thing is to obviously have a very profound understanding of the category that you applied for, just to emphasize this point that we already spoke about. So you need to know what clinical psychology is or educational psychology is, and just to allow the anxiety to really propel you and not to consume you. I think that really helped me a lot.
Like that, don't let the anxiety paralyze you or affect you, but let it propel you. Iman?
Okay, so just to add to the points we spoke about in relation to the autobiography, I just want to say if there's any trauma that you haven't worked with a professional psychologist or counselor, don't bring it up in your autobiography. Because the panel can use it against you. Like if you want to become a psychologist and you're not willing to work on your own problems, then do you really think you are suitable for this field? So do work on your traumas before you mention them in your autobiography. But if you haven't worked on something, don't bring it up. And accept that during the interviews, just try to be as honest as possible. If there's something you don't know, just be honest, tell the panel that you don't know or you're still working on it. And do try to gain as much practical experience as possible. Yeah.
Awesome. As long as they just don't say, I don't know. Every question, I don't know.
Yeah. No, don't say I don't know. Just try to make something up, but just be honest.
Okay. They'll say, oh, Iman has got selected. You said you are saying you don't know. Please, make sure you are strategic. Okay.
No.
No, I get you, Iman. Thank you. I'm just teasing you. Colleagues, it's your floor. I'm opening it. Anybody with a question, unless it's very specific, you can mention the person, but I will prefer that you put it generic so that anybody between Iman, Butle, and Amu can answer. Are there any questions that you have? I think the chat is open. I've not seen anything on the chat unless you can see the chat. Okay, there's a hand. Captain, there's a hand. I hope, yes, is your mic on? Are you able to speak or put it on the floor?
Hi, everybody. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, perfect, perfect. I'm happy the mic is working. Yes, we can hear you.
Sorry, I couldn't see the chat box. Well done, ladies, firstly, and thank you for sharing such informative information. I think my question would be any advice around, preparing for the written tasks, specifically research activities. Yeah.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you, Kathleen. I think it's very straightforward. Maybe let's start. Iman, are you able to answer? Because you said you had to do one, and then others can add.
Okay, so I did prepare ahead for the research activities. So I did the session with Cognition and Co, where they help you to prepare for role plays and case studies. So they I had to do a written task for them, and then the psychologist, it was with a psychologist, I think with Dylan, and he gave me feedback on the written task and on what I needed to improve on. The written task that I needed to do at SMU, it was quite straightforward. Like I had to read the article and write an abstract and a conclusion. So I would just say work on your vocabulary, maybe read as many articles as you can and look at how they write the abstract and how they conclude the articles. So something like that can help.
Thank you so much. Anything, Butle, promise? Any addition? If not, no problem.
I have nothing to add on my side, no.
Okay, no problem. Promise?
I have nothing to add.
No problem. Colleagues, I think on that one, research, there are two ways I see it. I don't think they will want you to be highly skilled in research. What I think they want to know with research, which is basic, they want to know whether you have got the basics of research. That's what they want to know. Because remember, research is the most crucial aspect of the master's program. As part of your master's, for you to be able to write the board exam, you must have completed a research project. So they will not expect you to know all the nitty-gritties, but at least you have the basic, which you should have developed at an honors level. Usually at honors, what they do, they make you do a group project. A group project equips you with the skill of research. When you get to masters, you should be able to apply research knowledge to conduct research. When you get to a PhD level, you should be able to conduct research to contribute to knowledge in the field. So at master's level, you should be able to do that. So by the time you enter into masters, the understanding is that you don't have the skill to be able to conduct research, but you must have the basics because you did either a group research project or you did an individual, but the basics should be there. That is why you do research methodology at an undergraduate level. I've done a video. Those who know our channel, please just check it out. There's a video I've done. If you go to the videos, just check a video called what is the name? It's a research. I was presenting to academics at SMU. Check this video. There's a video here. It's called Principles of Qualitative Research. I'm dealing there with the basics. If you can listen to that video, listen to it attentively because I'm dealing with the basics of research. Just listen to it. And one of the key things that I share with people, so when you get to the channel, one of the key things, just make sure that you just go to the playlist and choose psychology selection. All the videos about selection, you'll find them there. So choose that. But I want you to be able to deal with the issue of research. Get to the point where you understand the basic. The key thing is the basics of research. That's the most important thing. Get to know the basic. What is the basic? The basic, basically, do you understand? Iman, when he was talking, she said, I don't know whether they gave us an abstract or an article. You need to know the difference. What is an abstract? What is an article? An abstract is just a brief summary that you see just below your title. The abstract has got practical attributes around it. It gives you the topic, what is the article about. It gives you the methodology, what methodology was followed. It might have a theoretical or conceptual framework, and I deal with that in that particular presentation. A conceptual or theoretical framework, and the methodology. The methodology, basically, what is the method which was followed, and the sample participants who are selected, and it will give you the conclusion. Usually on the abstract, the conclusion will be just a one sentence. So it's a summary of the whole entire study. So you need to know this thing. So when you write, the key thing about research is that make sure that you use the lingo. Research is like mathematics. It has a language of itself. So when you speak, you need to show that you understand. My sample is, my participants are, my hypothesis is. When somebody doesn't know research, you could even hear them when they speak. I give an example most of the time. If I'm doing a qualitative study, I can't speak about hypothesis because that's not a qualitative study concept. I speak about what? Research questions. I speak about the objective of the research question, research aims, and all that. When I'm doing quantitative, I can't be speaking about my thematic analysis. There are no thematic analysis in a quantitative. You get that in qualitative study. So the minute you understand research, understand the concept. So that video, I deal with the basics so that you can know, even though it's qualitative, I distinguish between the two just to help people to understand the basic principle. I want to encourage you, make sure you watch that. Watch it thoroughly. It will prepare you, because with research, we want to see you using the terms. We want to see you using the concept and using them appropriately. That's the most key thing that I wanted to share with you on the answer that was asked. Are there any questions, colleagues? It's 7:30. I wanted as the latest 8 o'clock we should be done. Are there any questions? You can put them on the chat or you can ask them directly. You are the one going for selection, so I want you to ask questions. Clara, I see your hand.
Thank you so much, Dr. T, for these workshops. I find them very helpful, and I've been on your channel as well.
Thank you.
And for everyone who's shared their journeys so far, you're so inspiring. Thank you so much. You give us hope. So my question is for Iman in regards to the research, the written task. Do you actually use your own laptop to do that, or the university provides you with their own equipment? Thank you.
Thank you, Clara. Thank you. Iman?
Okay, so at SMU they gave us a sheet that they usually use for exams. So they expected us to take a pen and they gave us everything else, the answer sheet and the article printed as well. Yeah.
So basically it was handwritten.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. No, I thought as much. So I doubt you will have to do anything on a computer, because thinking about it, they'll need a computer lab to do that. But also from a selection process, a computer can also be an exclusion criteria, because if I'm not that computer illiterate, already I'm affected by dealing with the computer. So it's likely to be, everything is likely going to be manual. So, but thank you for that. I think these are practical questions that we need to ask just to prepare ourselves. Any other question? Any other question? Colleagues, you must ask. These are people who have been selected. Please ask them questions. I won't be able to cover as many questions as I get asked online. Yes, I see there's a hand from Joy. Is it Joy or Joya? Joy. Over to you.
Yes, it's Joy.
Oh, yes, Joy. Welcome.
Yes, firstly, I'd like to congratulate everyone who made it.
Thank you.
That's a blessing. So my question is that during the role plays, was it like a proper session where like you're building a rapport, there's the content of the session, and then afterwards you formulate the goals for future sessions? Or like did you do it to the extent where you're like formulating goals and stuff?
Thank you, Joy. I hope, colleagues, you got the question. The question basically, she's asking basically about the session. Maybe if you can just share about the whole session. Was it a proper session? How long did you have? Did you have time to build the rapport and all that? Because I think in the last session I shared that sometimes be careful when you've got limited time to spend more time on the rapport and never get to a point where you demonstrate the skill of conducting a helping session. So how long was the session? Did you have to build rapport? Did you have the time? Was the time sufficient? Anybody can come in and answer. Share, promise, man, anybody.
So my session, it was initially supposed to last 20 minutes, but I think it was approximately 15 minutes. And I think the important thing was to explore the emotions before jumping into problem solving or interpretation. So exploring their emotions and showing empathy was the most important thing. Actively listening, showing the client that you hear their story by not necessarily regurgitating, but saying it back to the client to show that you understand all the details. So usually using the client-centered, because that's what counselors use. I think they just want to see basic counseling skills of active listening and empathy before you get to interpreting anything.
Awesome. Any addition, Bushle, Iman? If no addition is still fine.
I think what I'll add is that we got told at Rhodes at the beginning of the session that you don't have to go through anything that's got to do with confidentiality or anything like that. You'll just start the session.
I think they'll just want to say, please don't waste time with ethics. Just get to the point. Yeah. No, I agree. So the gist of it, guys, colleagues, is that they want to see the basic skill. That is why it's the same with research. Do you have the basics? And like Butle Am was sharing, show that you can be able to conduct research, not research rather, a therapeutic session, but show that you can demonstrate the skills that you have learned at an undergraduate level. Remember, at an undergraduate level, there's a book that you use. There are different books, but the key thing about this book, the helping book basically, is to equip you with all the skills that you need in a therapeutic session. Listening, active listening skill, reflection skill. Are you able to hear and reflect or confirm what the client is telling you? So are you able to demonstrate those particular skills? So think about any book that you used with the helping skill within it and just go through the basics. Because when you get there, they want to see if you can be able to demonstrate that. The key thing, if you are asked to reflect or explain what you are doing, are you able to explain that? But explain it in such a way that you use the concept. If I'm reflecting, be able to say, no, I did this because I was reflecting what I'm hearing to confirm that I'm hearing the client correctly. I told the people that when somebody comes to the helping session, one of the key things about us as a psychologist is that we are not the expert of people's lives. We are the expert in understanding human behavior. So when you are there, you want to show that you are trying to understand the person, because you can only help them better when you understand them and you understand their point of view, or you show that empathetic skill. So just be careful of that, but be aware. Have that awareness all the time. Be at the moment. Why am I doing what I'm doing? Why am I asking this particular question? So that should I be asked to reflect, I can be able to answer why I was asking. It's not random. We don't just ask questions because they are good questions to ask. Why am I asking this particular question? Any other questions, colleagues? Any other question? Yes, Clara.
Okay, so my last question is, I realized that most of the feelings that were shared were feelings of disbelief when they finally received that acceptance letter. And so my question is, most of us obviously are aware that it's very difficult even just to get an invitation letter. So I'd like to know how they felt when they got that invitation letter that they'd been invited for selection week. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Clara. And I mean, what you are asking is very important, because I remember talking to somebody saying, you know what, I think it was Cam was saying in the previous session to say, because I've never been even invited for selection, I always thought I was doing something wrong. So being invited is even an affirmation that at least I'm in the right track. Even if I don't get selected, just an invitation. That's how important psychology selection has become to people. But I'd like you to share, colleagues. Anybody, Promise Buhle man, what is the reflection when you got that invitation letter? You know, any views? Or you got so many invitations, you were just saying, okay, we'll see when we get there.
Not at all. I think I agree with what Kamu was saying about how, because this was my first invite ever over the years of applying. So it really was reassuring that at least I'm doing something right. At least there's some potential, regardless of the outcome. So it really did feel very reassuring.
Awesome. And colleagues, for those who got the first invite, I just want to encourage you. I tell people that, in psychology, anything can happen. But one thing that you must come out of any selection process, it is not a confirmation that you can't be a psychologist. That one, you need to leave that place with it. It could be a confirmation that you still need some form of development for you to be viewed as ready to undertake a master's program. But the key thing is that when you go there also with that mentality that even if I might not get selected, but let me come out with a lesson that I need to work on and come back strong. Because you could hear the people who are talking here, they went there for the second time, or they've been here applying for the second year. So I don't want you to take it as the end of the world. I think one of the videos you see I've shared, I said, we go there to selection as the panel. We've got our own subjective views. We go there, we woke up on the wrong side of the bed, and it has nothing to do with you. I tell people, I mean, you'll speak to psychologists, you'll wonder, this one is a psychologist as well. What makes him a psychologist and I can't be one? It's because it's subjective. There is an element of subjectivity. That one we can't ignore, or at least I can't ignore it. I know there is an element of subjectivity. So keep that in mind. I don't want you to be discouraged, whatever the outcome. Go back there and go back strong and still take your place. Any other question or any other comment based on the question that was put here? Anything? Or questions, colleagues? Please, questions. These people are here for you. They've conquered the selection. Now they want to equip you to conquer yours. Any other question? Are there no questions? If there are no questions, I'm going to propose closure. Okay, I don't see any question. I don't see any hand. I'm going to give my guests just last round of comments. Just last week. Iman, Buhle, we're going to start in alphabetical order. I'm going to start with Buhle, then I go to Iman. Let me start with Amo. I was using Promise. I'm going to start with Amo, and then we go to Buhle, then we go to Iman. Any last word of encouragement to all the people who took time to listen to you, and others are going for an interview to Rhodes. I hear Rhodes has called people for counseling. Others later will be going, hey, I've got a crash here in my house. Maybe they're the one making my internet not to work. Over 10 phones connected of kids in the house. So we're fighting for the bandwidth. Anyway, so any last words, colleagues, from your side? Promise, let's start with you.
I just want to say thank you again for the opportunity to help others in the same way that you have helped us. Just want to wish everyone all the best. And I know this is very generic, and I used to hate it when people would say be yourself, but please be yourself. At least you'll know you went home and you were yourself entirely. I wish you all the best, and with whatever outcome, I just pray that it makes all of you happy, and yeah, all the best.
Thank you so much, Amo. Thank you so much, and thanks to you. I know that that statement. Yeah, people say, "What do you mean I must be myself? I be myself. I've not been selected." So yeah, I get that. Bushle?
I also just want to wish everyone all the best. Yeah, and keep trying, guys. It's a mentally draining journey. It takes a lot out of us, but in the end, it's all worth it.
I totally agree. At the end, people, it will be worth it. I mean, you will never regret having gone through this particular trouble. So that one I can totally confirm. Being a psychologist, yes, it's like going to heaven, but when you get there, you will appreciate the journey, that it has really opened doors for you. So I really, really want to encourage you that never give up. Let nobody make you lose focus. You know, somebody was asking me the other day, what do you do? I found it difficult because, you know, when you're a psychologist, you do a lot of jobs. You know, you supervise, you work in different universities at the same time. There's a lot that you can do. So it will definitely do change your life. That I can assure you. And I don't want you to give up. Any last words, Iman?
Yes, I just want to say good luck to everyone who's here today and who's still applying. I just want to say that if you do get a rejection letter, don't doubt yourself or your abilities. We don't get rejected because there's like we are not good enough. It's just that sometimes the panel members are looking for different candidates. So don't let the rejection letters make you doubt yourself or doubt what you're good at. Okay, and yeah, good luck with the selections, and I hope we all make it. I hope you all make it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Colleagues, let me take the time and thank our guest, Amu, Bushle, and Iman. I mean, these people, they just reached out to me to say we've been selected or channel has helped us. We'd like to help others. And I want to thank them so much for being here and for their willingness and openness to share and help you who are still going for this selection. And I want to also extend to all of you who are here that if you do get selected, please reach out. Let's help other people. Let us know that you've been selected. Don't be selected and celebrate in your corners alone. Come back to us and let us also reach out. We are hoping in January we start with other interviews just to help other people who are traveling this journey. Psychology journey, colleagues, is very difficult and it needs a network, you know, of people for you to get through it soberly and still come out, you know, still a bit sober. Most people, by the time they complete, you know, they've got issues psychologically, they've been affected mentally, they want nothing to do with an institute. There are many things that people go through, but we want you to be sober. That when you come out of it, you are still in a good mental state. So thank you, Iman. Thank you, Amu. And thank you, Bushe. I really appreciate your time. And those who are here, all colleagues who are going for the interview, all the best. And I believe that you are a psychologist. You can be psychologist. You can be selected, whether it happens now or later. But ultimately, as long as you don't give up, I believe it will happen. So, colleagues, have a good night with those words. Have a peaceful night and enjoy the rest of the evening. Good night.